What's going on, everybody? So today I'm here with the Ram. This is not going to be a big truck video. This is going to be a video on the Ram. So the primary focus of this video is going to be the install I just did of my CB radio and the custom mount that I made for it. Now the reason I want to install this is I have to give credit to another YouTuber who posted a mount like this on his channel, and I thought it was an ingenious way to do it, so I went through and did the same thing. Now he gave a pretty decent explanation on his channel, but he didn't go as in-depth as I'm going to, because I think, you know, if somebody else wants to do this, I want to be able to show them the way that I did it. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know I pride myself in doing things very clean. I don't half-ass shit, so this is probably one of my favorite installs that we've done. So that being said, his video will be linked in the description below. So this method will work on both the center console Ram trucks and the Ram trucks that have the bench seat like mine. So I believe this will work on any 13 to 17 and model newer that has this little I don't know what that thing is up there. It's like a pin holder or something in those this body style of Ram. So anyways, if you've got one of those dashes, this should work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to open everything up here, and I'm going to start from the back and go all the way to the front. So first thing you'll notice here is I don't have my back seats in, and that's for the purpose of this video, just so that I can show you guys with the wiring. The best thing about this install is you don't have to drill any holes in the truck, minus one hole in a piece of plastic under the dash. So you know, a lot of people are timid about putting CBs in their trucks and stuff because you end up having to drill into, I don't know, the center console or, you know, a piece of the dashboard, and if you go to sell it and you want to replace that piece, it's going to cost you, you know, $37,000 for a new piece of plastic for one of these trucks. So the big thing about this install is every hole we used is already here, and you won't have to drill anything anywhere noticeable except for the one hole that I will show you guys here later in the film, and that's it. So this can be completely reverted back, and nobody will be, you know, they'll be none the wiser when you go to sell your truck. So first thing first is the antenna. So I have two antennas on the truck. I've got one in the bed. It's a magnetic antenna, and it's stuck on the where like the gooseneck ball would go. I'll come back to that in just a second. And then I've got a second antenna here, which I will explain in a minute. So bear with me as I climb up here. Okay, so like I said, magnet antenna in the bed. Now this is a 4-foot whip. It does work. I've just been testing it, talking to my dad at the house on his base radio. I've gotten about 1.5 miles straight line distance from the house, and he can hear me just fine. I probably am going to be changing this out into an 8-foot whip, just to get it up above the side of the bed rails. All right, so that goes this antenna wire. And the other reason I did it here instead of hard mounting it, there's two reasons. One is I've had a long whip, or not a long whip, but a long CB antenna here on the side of the toolbox, and with the truck being lifted up to the center of the roof, I'm 7 foot 2 inches tall. So with a 4-inch whip, you know, you're up, or I'm sorry, a 4-foot whip or antenna, as most CB antennas are in the 4-foot range. Take away 2 foot, so I'm almost 10 feet tall with the antenna, and going under trees or in parking garages or everything, I've broken 2 antennas. So whip antenna on the floor of the truck, and I did it here, and the way I ran the wire was so that I can, you know, if I need to use the bed of the truck, I can pull this up, I can put it in the toolbox, and it's out of my way. And then when I'm ready to use the antenna again and I don't need the pickup truck bed, just set it back there. So that wiring, that's how am I gonna do this? Okay, let's see if you can see this here. So what I did was I ran back here. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see this. There's a little self-tapping screw and a wire holder. That's just drilled into the floor bed. So the wire goes into there, then it turns. I've got another one of those little self-tapper screw things with a wire holder here, and then it runs in under the truck through this existing hole in the bed. Now, if you have this truck, there will be a rubber grommet here. So you pop that rubber grommet out, run these through, and you're good to go. And that's where I also have the ground and the wire for the other antenna, and I'll get to that just now. So this antenna is a VHF antenna. I have a VHF UHF radio that will be going in this truck, and so that's what this antenna is for. So we mounted that on just your standard 90-degree mount. Ran the wire down through another one of the wire ties around the back, in through some wire loom into a 1-inch hole that I drilled into the toolbox, and then it comes in the toolbox. I drilled another hole, it runs through the loom and down, and then this is the ground wire that actually grounds the mount in this antenna. So those run into the loom and down through that same grommet as the CB antenna. Very clean, out of the way, never gonna have issues with it, just the way we like it. So now, like I said, I'm gonna make this very in-depth for anybody who's thinking about maybe doing this on their truck. Here's another look at that antenna wire. So so those come out. Okay, let's climb under here. Hope you guys can hear me. So those come out of the truck bed, and they come down here, and then I just have them zip tied around these holes right here just to kind of hold the wires up. And then if you'll see, bear with me, right here, if you can see it, I don't know, there's a hole that goes into under the cab of the truck. Get into the back seat, which will come up right here. Now, like I said, I didn't have to drill anything. This hole was already here with a plug. So what I did is, you know, you remove the back seats, you pull that plug out, and then I ran all 3 of the wires through there. The grommet, or the ground wire, which is right here, not hooked up yet because I don't have the back seats in. So these are gonna bolt to where the back seats are, and then that will be the ground for the VHF UHF antenna. Now these are my 2 antenna wires here. And let me crawl up here and I'll show you how I ran those. So they come up through, and then we just did flex seal. I just used a bunch of flex seal there and to reseal that hole. So let me turn this radio off before I get a copyright. And then the wires just run back around here, basically just right around the bottom. I did another one of these self-tapping screws with a wire holder that holds both the VHF and the CB antenna, and this is the VHF cable. It's just wired up because the actual VHF radio is going to be mounted right here, and then up front will go the detachable faceplate. So, and then I just, you know, ran the wire back and forth. If you guys are installing a CB in your truck, remember CB cables or antenna cables cannot be coiled when they're hooked up. If you have to rerun or take up space on a CB cable, you have to run it down and then turn it and come back. The way that the antennas work and coaxial works, coiling it will actually kill the antenna signal. So you can't do that. So we've just got to, you know, run back here with a zip tie, and then it runs back here. And then I started pulling trim. So that wire, you can just barely see it right here, and then it runs under this trim here. Climb out. Oh boy. Runs under this piece of trim, under this piece of trim, up to the front, where it runs under here, all the way under here, up You won't be able to see it because the wire has disappeared, but runs up behind the glove box, and then runs up to here. So I actually have a another clip of this that I took while I was installing it, and I'm going to cut to that now. All right, guys. So here's how this is run inside the truck. So this has not yet been put away, but you guys have already seen that this is tucked up under these and run up under the dashboard. So we do have the glove box out, and that antenna cable runs up here through the glove box and then runs up into just behind this air vent right here. That's an air vent in here, and then the antenna cable runs up over top of it. Now this is the only hole that you actually have to drill if you want to run it like this. And this is just plastic. There's nothing back here. Well, there is the radio back here, but if you're careful and you do a 1-inch hole saw, you can run all of your wires up here. So we have our power wire run and our antenna wire run up through here. And you guys have seen how that all ties into this mounting system. So as far as the power, how we did that is we ran back here, up under the radio. Here's the actual wiring. So we just dropped it down behind the radio, and the wiring comes out. We've got that tied and dropped back here, and then we tapped into just using the little tap connectors right here onto the 12-volt cigarette lighter. So the radio will only have power with the key on, which is exactly the way I want it, because I like to leave the actual radio turned on with all of its settings and not have to turn it on and off itself every time I get in the truck. So that's how the inside here has been run, and this will all here momentarily make sense. But like I said, this right here, this 1-inch hole in the plastic, is the only hole that you have to drill if you want to mount it like this, and you won't see it. It'll be covered by the plate that we use. All right, so here's the part way completed. I'm kind of backtracking here, but just to show you guys how we actually got the screws in. So these are the screws that are actually mounting to, if you look at that 1-inch hole that I drilled in the plastic, just to the right and to the left are these little like screw certs that slide over plastic. These are the 2 screws that replace that go into them. So they replace these screws that hold in the ram thing, whatever that little useless space is. So those are those screws, and how we did that was we drilled those holes, and then we marked the same spot up here and drilled these larger holes. So instead of having a 4-inch screw that went all the way up through here, we just drilled a hole so that we could get the screwdriver down on top of those. And then, you know, you tighten those down. There's one on the other side. And then on this bracket, we did a 1-inch hole in the center of it to lead down on top of the 1-inch hole that's on the plastic in here, and then a 1-inch hole on the back. Hi. And that's where your wiring runs. So this will be a very clean install, as you guys have already seen. When this is all set up, I mean, it's very clean. You can't see, really the only wires you can see are back here, but they all go neatly in, and you don't actually have to drill anything into the dash. So if you guys ever take this out, put it back, you know, put your little useless ram pencil holder or whatever the hell that thing's for back in, sell the truck, nobody will ever know that you had a CB in here, and that's good. Okay, so just outside those 2 big holes that we use for the screwdriver, these ones, we drilled the holes to actually mount the CB bracket too. So those slide down in there, and then we've got nylon coated nuts that'll go on the back side of that. And then you obviously just mount the CB to that bracket, and there you go. So these, by the way, the size that we used are number 7 2-inch screws. They're not actually bolts, so you got to be careful. It's actually screws, and you'll see them when they come out. I mean, it's actually a screw. So the replacements that we had were number 7 2-inch long, and they fit just perfectly in there, and it's sturdy. So I'm going to bolt this up, mount the CB, and then we'll be back to where you guys are watching as we speak. Okay, so like you just saw, the the wire is run up behind here. I think that I did a pretty good job of explaining everything to do with this mount. Basically, this is a 2-inch tall by 3-inch wide by 8-inch long piece of rectangular steel tubing with a 1-inch hole drilled in the bottom, a 1-inch hole drilled in the back, 2 mounting screws right here that mount it, and then out of the back here, let me move my hat, I'll show you how we've cleaned this up. So you can see we just run those 2 wires out through some wire loom so it looks better. The antenna cable's plugged in, the power cable's plugged in, and yeah, so anytime the key is on, the radio will have power because it's attached into the little cigarette lighter port here. That's where the power comes from. So anytime the key's on, the radio will have power. And that's really about the install there. It took us a little while because was doing it, you know, very slow and methodically. I wanted to make sure everything came out the way I wanted it to. However, I couldn't be more happy with it. So I'll move over to the driver's seat and kind of show you driver's eye view of what it looks like, so that I can show you it does not impede your vision at all. And there it goes. So I bring this up to like face level. As I'm looking over, you know, I can still see the hood. So it doesn't take up any, you know, it doesn't obscure any view out of the windshield, which I like. You know, it's easy to grab the mic and put it back. I do have a magnetic mic clip coming that will be getting installed so that I can just stick it on there and I won't have to fumble for it. But yeah, now like I said, I gave you the measurements of this. It's 2 inches tall by 3 inches wide. Now, if you're planning on doing this, I would highly recommend getting the same size, just because of where that hole is gonna ride and the clearance you're gonna need to run wires. However, you can do it shorter. We have this tall piece here because, like I said, the detachable faceplate from the VHF UHF radio is going to be going up here. So the faceplate's only about this tall, about that distance really, and it's only about that long. So we're going to flush mount that straight to this. So I'll have both my radio setups right here, and I won't have to put a console in the truck or anything. So I can still maintain my bench seat and the accessibility here. Plus, you know, if you got a little pretty girl riding a shotgun, you can still do that. So yeah, that's it. You know, I'm happy with it. I think it's a pretty clean install. I think it came out really well. And if you have any questions about it, you know, throw them in the comment section below. I will answer them best I can. And I believe that's it. So now we're going to move into the section. If you're just here for the CB install, you can probably leave now, because now I'm going to get into the truck, since I have not given you guys a video of the truck since it's been lifted. And then I'm going to get into where the hell I've been for the past month. Here she is. I know you guys have seen her in a video, and I told you I was gonna do a video of the lift kit. I went through all that film, and a lot of it was just a jumbled mess. There was no cohesive like filming there, so I stopped doing it. What this is a Zone off-road product 6.5-inch long arm, or what they call radius arm kit. So replace the springs, you know, the shocks, the radius arms. These are the new radius arms. They're pretty beefy. And then I also used the Zone Off-Road transfer case indexing ring to rotate the transfer case to realign the front differential drive shaft. So in the back, you know, this is a solid rear axle, but there is no leaf springs back here, so it's just the spring suspension. And then these are my sway bar end links that are just extended. So that was I've never installed a lift kit, so I don't have anything to compare it to. I did all this myself with the help of one friend. It was a beast, I'll tell you that much. It was the kit, I'll just say the kit was very well designed and everything went together perfectly. It was just a lot of work to install that. So, but I think it was worth it. I think the truck came out looking great. The wheels are Black Rock. I think they're, yeah, Black Rock. I want to say it's either series 992, 3, or 6. I can't remember what the model number is. I'll put it in the description. And then the tires are Pro Comp X Terrain 37 by 1350 by 17. So the wheels are 17-inch diameter, 9-inch width, negative 24-inch, negative 24 offset with a 4.5-inch back spacing. So that's it. That's the lift kit. As far as where I have been for the past month, for those of you guys who follow my trucking side of the channel, I told you that I had a couple family reunions to go to. I did that. We did those. Went to the family reunion for my mom's side of the family up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. It was great. And then immediately following that, we went to Canada, my dad and I, for my dad's side family reunion, which was a freaking blast as always. Then we came back from that and we were ready to go to work. There wasn't anything. We got back, I think, on a Monday. There wasn't anything happening until that following week. We loaded, we were supposed to load on Tuesday to take a field. We ended up loading that on Wednesday, and then in Atlanta. So we loaded that field in Atlanta. We got 250 miles up the road to Knoxville, just north of Knoxville, actually, mile marker 118/2. And the truck broke down. So we had our first major breakdown on the truck. It was a fuel pump failure. It's a very common problem on the Cummins ISX 15s. The plungers are made out of ceramic and they have a tendency to come apart. So that happened. That put us down for the majority of a week. We had to get the load recovered and repowered. Luckily, one of our friends was able to take care of that for us and really help us out of a bind there. So that really quickly turned into a very expensive week. But you know, it's kind of the cost of doing business when you're trucking and stuff like that. You know, anybody out there that's in trucking will tell you that you're gonna have a breakdown. So it was kind of a nightmare situation, but it all got fixed. Our mechanic was great, MHC Knoxville. I think his name was Duty. But yeah, he got us up and running. You know, it took 3 days to get everything all squared away and run through all the procedures to get to check the fuel system and the bottom end of the motor and the oil cooler. And when these fuel pumps come apart, they just trash everything. So there was quite a bit of work involved. But like I said, the cost of doing business, this is why we have maintenance funds. 10%, you know, I don't really talk money that often, but maintenance funds is something that I will talk about through and through. 10% of every load that we haul immediately goes to a maintenance escrow fund. That's before we even see any money. It comes right off the top, goes into a fund, and we don't touch it unless we're broken down. So luckily I was just able to break out the checkbook and write the check for it, which hurt, but that's the kind of stuff you have to plan for out here. So if you're a trucker and you're not making a maintenance escrow a priority of yours, you need to, because someday, somewhere, you are gonna break down and it is going to be something expensive, and trust me, you're going to want to plan for that. So do not get caught with your pants down when your truck decides to break. Anyways, I think that about sums up the majority of the last month, the truck with the lift and the CB radio install. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys, if you have a Ram and you guys decide to install something like this, go to my Instagram and send me a picture of it. I'd like to see, you know, how y'all did it, and what tweaks you guys made to make it suit you. But great install area. I'm really happy with it, and I look forward to getting the VHF radio on there and getting to talk with that. So that all being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and head back to the house, and hopefully we will be to work next week, or this week actually, and we will see you guys out there on the road. So thanks for watching. Take care.